Welcome inside the Fantasy Sports Network studios. I'm Hannah Nordman for HotRoster Now. The trade deadline is done, the bye weeks are done. All that's left for teams is punching their ticket to the playoffs or potentially upping their odds in the lottery. But no matter how these teams finish up the season, we now have a good sense of how they look heading down the home stretch. Last week I went 4 for 4. Today I'm making my picks on HotRoster's Power Play card. Let's dig in. Our first matchup pits Jack Eichel against Tyler Seguin. Eichel had a great month of February, totaling 16 points and capping it with a 7-game point streak. He doubled his power play points and continues to average more than 20 minutes a game. On a 4-game losing streak, there's few opponents more appealing than the recently dismantled Arizona Coyotes. Now without names like Michael Stone and Martin Hanzal, and with Alex Burmistrov sidelined after a major hit on Tuesday, they're in full tank mode. Meanwhile, Tyler Seguin is putting together another solid campaign. He's got 61 points in 63 games and 4 multi-point games in his last 7. He racked up an impressive 56 shots in February, including a 9-shot game against the Leafs. Up against the Islanders, it's going to be a much tougher test. Both are on the playoffs doorstep, but the Isles blanked them in their first meeting back in January. Solely based on the Coyotes' futility, I'm going with Eichel. Up next, we've got Mike Hoffman taking on Brad Marchand. Hoffman's had a pretty standard season as far as point totals go, but he's been a bright spot on the Sens power play. 18 of his 41 points have come on special teams, and you get that half-point bonus for any goals scored on the power play. A few days ago, I would have thought a Colorado matchup would be a layup, but they didn't end up moving Matt Duchene or Gabe Landeskog at the deadline. Don't get me wrong, they're still a bad team, but they're not nearly as bad as they could be right now. Then there's Brad Marchand. This guy checks off every category. He's averaging more than a point per game, is a plus 18, and you know he's usually good for a couple of penalty minutes. What's more impressive are his special teams numbers. 17 points on the power play, 5 points on the penalty kill. This guy produces no matter what. I'm taking Marchand despite the tougher matchup against the Rangers. Next, we've got David Pastrnak and Wayne Simmonds. I'm a full-time member on the Pastrnak bandwagon. The kid has doubled his career point total in his 3rd NHL season. He made the score sheet in 8 of his 10 February games, including 4 multi-point games. The guy peppers the net and continues to rack up time on the power play. The Rangers are middle of the pack in goals allowed, so the opportunity's there for another big game. Wayne Simmonds and the Philadelphia Flyers have had a tougher time this season. They're still just 4 points out of a playoff spot, but with just 20 games to go, that deficit can be daunting. He had just 6 points in the month of February, 2 of them coming against the Avalanche on Tuesday. With limited shot attempts and little help in supporting stat categories, I don't like his chances against the surging Panthers. I'm sticking with Pastrnak. Finally, HotRoster wants to know if John Tavares will have greater or less than 4.5 fantasy points up against the Stars. The Stars give up the 3rd most goals per game, and the Isles have playoff motivation feeding them, sitting just 1 point out of a wildcard spot. They've had nearly a week to stew on their 7-0 loss to the Blue Jackets Saturday and have every reason to be coming out hot. He's got 8 points in his last 8 games. I expect a couple of points for the captain. I'm saying he goes over 4.5. So that's my card for tonight. You can make your own by picking 4 to 10 matchups on any of the cards available now for the NHL, NBA, and EPL. And for those of you who don't know what HotRoster is, check it out. Go to HotRoster.com, download the app, give it a try. It's like no other fantasy game you've ever played. And then for help winning the game, check out HotRoster today with Cam Stewart and Gary and Thorne every weekday at 4:30 Eastern on the Fantasy Sports Network and 6:30 Eastern on Game TV. For HotRoster Now, I'm Hannah Nordman.